before Singapore became one of the richest, safest, and most admired countries in the world, it was just a small island, poor, crowded, and uncertain of its future. There were no mountains of minerals, no oil, not even enough clean water for its people. Families lived in old wooden houses, roads were narrow, jobs were scarce, and hope felt distant. The world did not believe Singapore could survive on its own, but one man did. His name was Lee Kuan Yew, a sharp-minded lawyer with an unshakable belief. Even the smallest nation can become great if its people are educated, disciplined, and honest. He fought corruption. He built schools, factories, homes. He created laws that treated every citizen equally. Slowly, the impossible began to happen. Within one generation, Singapore rose from hardship to global admiration. This is not just a story of a leader. It's the story of vision, courage, and the power of belief. Lee Kuan Yew was born on September 16, 1923, in Singapore, then part of the British Empire. It was a busy trading port, crowded with ships, merchants, and British officials. His family belonged to the Straits Chinese community, educated, disciplined, and deeply committed to learning. His father, Lee Chinan, worked as a storekeeper, quiet but principled. His mother, Jim Neo, managed the household with care and strength. From her, young Lee learned the values that would shape his life: hard work, thrift, and self-respect. As a child, he was curious, energetic, and observant. At Raffles Institution, one of Singapore's top schools, teachers noticed his sharp memory and natural leadership. The 1930s were hard years. The Great Depression shook trade and life. Yet Lee excelled in English and mathematics. Even as a teenager, he questioned unfair rules and refused to accept easy answers. His classmates often remembered him saying things like, "Why follow a rule that makes no sense?" In 1940, he earned a scholarship to Raffles College, dreaming of becoming a lawyer to serve justice under British rule. But fate had other plans. In December 1941, the peaceful rhythm of life shattered. Bombs fell, sirens wailed, and the Japanese army advanced through Southeast Asia with frightening speed. Raffles College closed. On February 15, 1942, Singapore fell. For Lee, the fall of the British changed everything. A power he thought unshakable had surrendered. He realized, if the British can fall, we must learn to stand on our own. Life under Japanese occupation was harsh. Food was scarce, movement was controlled, careless words could cost lives. Thousands of Chinese men disappeared during the Suqing massacre. Lee himself narrowly escaped death by quick thinking, convincing soldiers he worked for a Japanese company. College was gone, but learning never stopped. He observed how societies collapse, how power shapes lives, and how ordinary people survive in extraordinary hardship. He made a promise: if Singapore is ever free again, we must build a government that is strong, honest, and disciplined. In 1946, Lee travelled to England to continue his studies. After a short period at the London School of Economics, he moved to Cambridge University, where he studied law, governance, and history. He worked with fierce discipline. He read widely, learning how nations rise and fall. In 1949, he graduated with first-class honours. At Cambridge, he met Lee Kuan Yew, brilliant and steady, who would later become his wife and lifelong partner. Living in England revealed something important: the British governed themselves with fairness and order, but ruled their colonies with hierarchy and inequality. Lee realized that Singapore's dignity and future could only come through self-rule. Back in Singapore, Lee began his career as a lawyer. He represented ordinary people: bus drivers, clerks, labourers, those with no voice under colonial rule. The early 1950s in Singapore were harsh: poverty, unsafe working conditions, overcrowded housing, and deep inequality. In 1954, Lee and a group of young professionals and union leaders founded the People's Action Party (PAP), standing for honest governance, unity, and self-rule. In 1955, he won a seat in the Legislative Assembly, fighting for fair wages, equality, and integrity. By 1959, Singapore achieved full internal self-government, and at just 35, Lee Kuan Yew became the country's first prime minister. He did not celebrate. Instead, he said simply, "The real work begins now." Singapore was fragile. No natural resources, high unemployment, overcrowded slums, and a divided society. Lee started with corruption. He strengthened anti-corruption laws, ensuring no one, not even ministers, stood above the law. Next came housing. The Housing and Development Board built safe, affordable apartments. Families gained running water, electricity, and dignity. Jobs followed. Lee invited international companies to invest, creating factories, industries, and opportunities. Education became the nation's shield. English was introduced as the working language, while mother tongues Chinese, Malay, Tamil remained protected. Unity without losing identity. By the early 1960s, Singapore was growing, but still vulnerable. Lee believed that merging with Malaysia would bring stability. The merger with Malaysia in 1963 started with hope, but soon turned tense. Political differences, economic competition, and racial policies caused friction. In 1964, racial riots erupted. Streets were unsafe. Fear spread. Lee worked tirelessly, speaking to communities in multiple languages, urging calm. And then came the hardest day. August 9, 1965, Singapore was expelled from Malaysia. A small island, with no army, few resources, and 2 million people depending on a future that did not yet exist. Lee Kuan Yew said quietly, "This is the most painful moment of my life. But we will survive. We will grow. We will build our own destiny." After independence, Singapore's survival depended on discipline and vision. Defense, national service was introduced. Young men trained to protect the nation. Economy, foreign investment and trade transformed the island into a global hub. City planning, clean streets, parks, and order became national pride. Singapore earned the nickname the Garden City. Education, schools, polytechnics, and universities focused on science, math, and technical skills. The people became the nation's greatest resource. Within a generation, Singapore rose from poverty and uncertainty to become one of the world's most educated, safe, and prosperous societies. The world called it the Singapore Miracle. Lee Kuan Yew led for 31 years. He did not seek fame or power. He sought stability, honesty, and survival for his people. He often said, "I do not need to be loved. I need to be understood." When he passed in 2015, the world mourned. But the deepest grief came from his people, citizens whose homes, safety, and future were shaped by his vision. Today, Singapore shines as proof that discipline shapes destiny, unity builds strength, and a visionary leader can change the course of a nation. This is more than a story of one man. It is the story of a nation that rose from nothing to extraordinary heights.